expected they'd get when they acquired him in a draft night trade with the Mavericks in exchange for the rights to Luka Doncic. And while Baby Bird got more early buzz throughout his career, it's Young who now finds himself 3 wins away from the NBA Finals. So, Shannon, is Trae Young making the case that Atlanta made the right pick of choosing him over Luka?
Yeah. Skip, in a vacuum, Luka's a better player than Trae Young. He can do more things. He can do more things. He's bigger. I mean, I'm always going to take the great big man over the great little man. That's just the way it works in sports. Give me an opportunity to get a point guard that's 6 foot. Give me Magic Johnson, or you give me a comparable point guard. I'm taking Magic. It's just the size of it. But he works in Atlanta. Skip, I lived in Atlanta. I still have a home in Atlanta. I've been there for 27 years.
Yep.
And I said this at Luka is perfect in Dallas. Trae is perfect in Atlanta. The shimmy, the flash, the pizzazz that this young man possesses is perfect for ATL. Skip, it's a prime example like Mike Vick. Look at Lamar Jackson. Look at Kyler Murray. They can run there every bit to have the legs. But the Michael Vick experience could have only taken place in Atlanta. Trae Young.
Okay, but timeout.
Yes.
As much as I love Lamar and Kyler, they're not Michael Vick. I mean, that was as special as it gets.
I mean, you think about you look at Lamar, he's won an MVP. He has more rushing yards. He broke Michael Vick's rushing record. He's dynamic with his legs, Skip, but the Michael Vick experience.
I'm talking about make you miss in the open field. I've never seen anything like Michael Vick, ever.
But Trae, Skip, it had, and I see what happened was, Skip, everybody said, man, the Falcons got, woo. They got had on this one. They should have kept Luka. They should have kept Luka.
Everybody said that.
Everybody said that. And now you're starting to see, like, hold on, wait a minute. Trae ain't bad. Not is he not bad, he really good. He's on the cusp of being a superstar. Skip, he's averaging 30 and 10 for the playoffs.
He is.
In his very first playoffs, he's 30 and 10. And I can make the case he's been as good as anybody that's even played in the playoffs. And that's KD, that's Jokic, that's Kawhi, whomever you want to live, Donovan Mitchell, whomever. That young man, that 5'11", the shortest of all those guys that I mentioned, he has been equally as good, if not better. So for me, Skip, I think the trade worked out perfect for everybody. Everybody is happy with the player that they got. And Skip, you know what? That's how it should be. I believe Trae should be like, you know what? I ain't mad. Nobody feels like, because at the end of the day, I don't think anybody is disappointed with the player they got. I know Dallas is not upset with the player they got. I can assure you the Atlanta Hawks are not upset that they got Trae Young as opposed to Luka Doncic. And I believe both players work. They're in their ideal landing spot. And it works because of, Skip, look, the elephant in the room is demographics. Okay. We know what Atlanta is.
I got it.
He worked.
Okay.
There.
All right. Yet, are you speaking somewhat out of both sides of mouth?
No.
Because you're saying they work where they are.
Yes.
But you're saying in a vacuum, you'd take Luka.
No. Luka is a better player. I don't, Skip, if you ask poll the general managers, I don't think any general manager will say, well, I'll take Trae Young over Luka. Luka is a 2-time first-team All-NBA player, Skip. There's only 5 of those guys of 450 players.
Yeah. Okay. This is a tough one, but it's a good one. Because Trae Young is coming.
Yes.
And as I told you earlier, the little man who stopped growing early is starting to grow on me. And it's about intangibles. But first, let me get the negatives out of the way. They both have some diva in them. They both tend to go sit when they rest and put some kind of, is it an ice bag or a heating pack? I don't know which one it is, on their shooting shoulder. Both of them do it. And I don't know if that's just the newest cool accessory for it kids.
I think Luka's was his left shoulder. I think Trae's is the shooter's shoulder.
Okay, that's right. It was. You're right. But both of them tend to go sit with something on one or the other shoulder. I don't love that. Sometimes it looks like a prop to me, but at least Trae puts the tape on, the black tape on. So maybe he does have a banged up sort of shoulder issue. And neither of them play much to any defense at all. They just don't play defense.
But Skip, the thing, he's so smart. What kind of defense can he play?
Steal the ball defense. That's all you can do. Okay. But you're right. And then we get to three-point shooting. They're both, I'm sorry, for their star standards, they're pathetic three-point shooters because since Trae entered the league, well, let's just look at their overall. This is for 3 years.
Right.
Trae's at 34%, and Luka's even a little worse. So Trae is ranked 77th of the qualified shooters since he came in the league, and Luka is 81st at 33%.
Right.
So it's just bad on bad.
Right.
And they shoot too many. At least Trae, I told you 2 years ago, he averaged 10 a game, and he throttled it back to 6. But now in the playoffs, he's going back toward 10. Okay. Now we get to what matters the most, intangibles. I'm starting to think that I like Trae's intangibles more. I'm with you from the start. I thought, well, give me 6'7" over 5'11" because it's just hard to overcome 5'11".
Right.
But Trae Young is showing me in bigger moments than Luka has managed to get to because he's not gotten out of the first round. But Trae, in a Game 7 at Philly, he shot 5 of 23 and 2 of 11.
Right.
But when it was time, he had that flurry of shots where he goes little jump shot, 17-foot jumper, and then a floater, and then a logo 3. And it was a big one.
Right.
And it got them back in a game that they finally put away.
Right.
And they feed off his spunk and spark and spontaneity and swag and spirit. They feed off it. That whole team does in ways I don't think the Mavericks feed off Luka.
I think Trae has less diva in him than Luka.
I'll buy that.
And plus, Skip, if my shot's not falling, guess what I'll do? I'll go to the lane, get fouled, and go to the free throw line because I'm confident that I'm going to make 85% of those.
Okay.
I'm not so sure Luka feels that way.
Okay. And that's the other one that closes the case for me where I'm starting to give edge to Trae. Free throw shooting, it ain't even close because one guy for his career is 86% and the other guy's 74%. And trust me, I know that doesn't sound like a big gap. That's a huge gap.
That 12% is huge.
It's in the playoffs so far, Trae Young is 87%. And again, down the stretch last night, he made his last 7 in a row, 6 of 6 when he went 2 for 2, 2 for 2.
All the close games in Philly.
He was making his clutch free throws. Luka, obviously it was just the 7-game series against the Clippers, he shot 53% from the free throw line and became something of a late game liability, as we saw, to the point that we look at missing in the playoffs. Just in the playoffs, it's Ben Simmons is the worst, and then Capella is the next worst, and then Luka is on the list. And then it goes Giannis, Dwight Howard, and LeBron. That's what they ranked in the playoffs so far in free throw shooting. So he was a disaster. He's 27 of 51. Okay? So the little man is way better at the free throw line and way better at the clutch free throw line than the big guy is, the 6'7" guy. So I'm starting to say, not only did Atlanta make the right choice, and you're right about the fit. The fit is great. I give you the fit. Not that Trae wouldn't work in Dallas too, or vice versa, but it's a better fit.
Better fit, absolutely.
Listen, Trae, I don't know if Luka would be great in Atlanta. I don't know if that'd be great. Trae would still work in Dallas. They would love Trae.
Yes.
But the point is that this little man, he's so lightning that he lights his team up. They tend to love him. I always get the feeling the Mavericks don't love Luka because he'll turn on them occasionally. He'll give that body language as, I don't want to associate with you guys.
Maybe he did turn on the coach.
Well,
because it seems like Trae is coachable. And Skip, maybe because he's not the superstar or viewed as the superstar Luka is. Luka knows what he is, knows that he has certain powers that other players, but I don't get that vibe from Trae. I get that he's he always talks about we're a team, we believe, I believe in these guys, they believe in me, I do what I do. But I don't think anybody's disappointed, Skip. Mark Cuban is more than happy to have him, and I can assure you that Hawks ownership is more than happy to have Trae.
But in the end, I loved what Nate McMillan said after the game, and you talked about how he was talking about he didn't try to put him in the Steph category. Anybody who tries to compare Steph to Trae Young, it's just wrong. Steph Curry he's a career 43% three-point shooter. In the playoffs, he's a 40% three-point shooter. It's night and day from the three-point line between these two. But Trae can do some things in the lane with the floater.
Right.
And again, I told you earlier, he's becoming as deadly a mid-range scorer as there is in the league. So he's got mid-range game that even Steph doesn't have. But in the end, Nate McMillan talked about last night how no stage, especially road stage, is too big for Trae because he loves it. He lights up to the road.
He's turned into everywhere he goes, he's the villain now, Skip.
And he loves it. And I never could get him as a villain because I obviously watched him in his year because I'm a University of Oklahoma fan, but he's from Norman, Oklahoma, right there where OU is based.
Right.
But he seemed like such a nice kid, such a non-threatening kid that I don't get how he became a villain in New York to the point somebody thought they could spit on him. They needed to spit on him.
I mean, Skip, he's so small. Normally the villains are big guys, you know, the Lambeers of the world, the Dennis Rodman. They became villains wherever they went.
Somebody